The Browns introduced their new GM today, Mary Kate. John Dorsey. He and Jimmy Haslam held a press conference on Friday morning here in Berea. And the question is now, will it work with John Dorsey? Is this finally going to be the guy that turns this organization around?
Well, you know, I think there are clear signs that they're on the right track with this, because really it's the first time that they've hired a real experienced general manager who's done it before, who has a track record, who could say, look, you know, I went to the playoffs this amount of times, these are the Pro Bowl players that I picked, and they talked a lot about, you know, now Hue has somebody that, like him, is a football lifer, and that's what he didn't have in Sashi Brown. Now these guys speak the same language. They can sit in a film room together and they can talk the same language, and that's vitally, vitally important. And you know, look, with the draft they've got coming up with 2 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, $90 to $100 million in cap space, I do think it's important to have a guy like this.
Yeah, football lifer, as you said, was kind of the word of the day. And listen, when you have a guy like Hue Jackson, Greg Williams, I mean, this is a coaching staff that is built of those guys. Maybe there's some organizations and some coaching staffs that you don't need that necessarily to work with them, but it was just clear that's sort of what this coaching staff needs. And when they made that commitment to Hue Jackson after they fired Brown yesterday, this is the direction they had to go.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I mean, you're talking about some tough guys in Greg Williams and Hue Jackson. Yeah. When you want to talk football with them, you have to know what you're talking about. John Dorsey has played football, he's scouted football, and he's GM'd football. And, you know, he's not going to be able to try to pull the wool over their eyes and vice versa. These guys can get down to the nitty-gritty. If they have a disagreement about a player, whether it's offense or defense, they can get in there, they can hash it out. And I've talked to people on the phone that have worked with John Dorsey, and they said, you know, he does let people do their jobs, and he also is very big on trying to find players that are going to fit the coaching staff that's in place. And he tried to do that in Kansas City. I think he'll do it here.
Yeah, that was something that certainly happened in Kansas City with Andy Reid. They really put together a roster that really seemed to fit. Everything kind of worked together. You knew what their identity was on both sides of the football. You knew how they were going to win games. So that's a big part of it. And the other part of it is he's taking over a team. Joe Thomas tweeted this out. He's basically taking over a team that's a ball of clay. They're young. They have all these assets coming up. That's certainly one thing that Sashi Brown did do well. He has a ton of assets, just John Dorsey, to work with to accomplish not only that #1 charge of finding a quarterback, but also to put pieces around that quarterback.
Right, and you just nailed it right there when you said to find that quarterback, because Jimmy Haslam has basically mandated that John Dorsey go out and find that quarterback. And look, now they've got the resources to do it, and I don't think that they're going to pass on another Carson Wentz or a Deshaun Watson. And I mean, I think they're going to, you know, really all put their heads together and try to come up with the best quarterback in the first round out of this draft. And I think they're going to have to do it. I mean, they obviously have to do it. I mean, it's either going to be with that first pick, which I think that it will be with that one, or the second pick in the first round. Probably it will be the first. They cannot afford to pass on another Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson.
And we officially know the group that's going to be making that decision. John Dorsey introduced today. We'll have full coverage of everything he had to say, everything Jimmy had to say, everything Hue had to say at cleveland.com/Browns.